Steve Hayes, The Hill's managing editor Bob Cusack, and Roll Call's Jonathan Strong. And Steve, let's start with you because you wrote about this today.
Yeah, it just struck me as I was sitting there listening to Vice President Biden last night make, on the one hand, the case that we really didn't know that much about what happened in Libya, and even after the fact, as we've tried to put together a story, a narrative about what happened there, we haven't known anything. It's taken more than 2 weeks for the intelligence community to lay out a story for the administration, according to Vice President Biden. And in effect, he's sort of saying they're clueless. They don't know what they're doing. Then it was literally the next question. Martha Raddatz says, let's talk about Iran. She goes to Vice President Biden, and he says, we will know when they move to build a nuclear bomb because our intelligence capabilities are so great. You can't have it both ways. It's either one or the other.
Not only that, it's a little bit scary about our intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Obama administration is glad that the election is not about foreign policy. I mean, it's about the economy, because they've stumbled so badly on foreign policy. We were putting a timeline together of Libya, and it was just amazing, the different statements, because there's been so much of the last couple weeks and you go back and look at all the contradictions. It's really unbelievable. And I imagine if Netanyahu, and I'm sure he was, watching the debate, I mean, he must have wanted to go through the television when Biden at one says, let's just calm down, the sanctions are working. He clearly doesn't agree.
I want to focus on this statement by Biden that we didn't know they wanted more security, and then it comes out, he says, oh, well, just me, myself, Joe Biden, and President Barack Obama, we didn't personally know, but our administration knew. These guys are masters of escaping blame for things that their administration does. If you remember back in the beginning, when the consulate released the video that Romney was attacking, they said, oh, that wasn't us, that was just our consulate, you know, and they continue to do this to pin blame on their own administration, but it doesn't absolve them of guilt for it.
Well, there are two things. One is sort of the political implication and whether or not, you know, foreign policy is any relevance sort of in the vote in the election come November. But the other, it's sort of terrifying if you know, with the quality of our intelligence. I mean, the fact that Vice President Biden had those two different views of our intelligence gathering, one question after another. That's terrifying.
It is, but I mean, I think the question is Joe Biden scapegoating the intelligence community? I mean, is it really possible that the intelligence community didn't tell the Obama administration for more than 2 weeks, as both Stephanie Cutter and Joe Biden claimed last night? Stephanie, in her interview with Bret Baier, Biden in the vice presidential debate, that the intelligence community didn't actually know and didn't present them with good information. I find that incredibly hard to believe, not only because of conversations that I was having with intelligence officials, people who knew about this, but reports from Eli Lake at Newsweek were saying that we had intelligence that first night. We had intercepts talking about between Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb terrorists and other jihadists who were behind the attack. We knew from the very moment that the attacks took place that these were Al-Qaeda-linked attacks, that they were probably pre-planned, that they were planned for the anniversary of 9/11, and yet you had the administration 5 days later in the person of Susan Rice go out and say that you know, disclaim all of that. And then President Obama on David Letterman on the 18th of September, a full week later, saying that it was this video that led to these protests.
I think we need to see the paper trail here. They're saying that they were told that this is a spontaneous protest. Well, where's the memo they got? Where are the emails? They need to declassify that, maybe redact some of the information. But it's ridiculous on its face, so we need the proof.
It'd be one thing if they said, well, we have an investigation ongoing, but they had Susan Rice out on the Sunday shows, and the media knew more about them, apparently. And remember, the video came out in July, and then all of a sudden, it's September 11th, just by coincidence, and you have the deadly attacks.
And why did they send the UN ambassador out to do this? Well, you know, that seemed like an odd choice.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it now, a lot of that was an odd choice.
You were asking that question early on. I mean, where was Hillary Clinton in this whole thing? Why isn't Hillary Clinton attaching herself to these arguments?
I think she was smart enough to stay away from this.
She was very smart, and there was a reason that she was smart. But look, also, you know, Stephanie Cutter in an interview with Bret last night said, you know, referred back to this memo that came from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and she said it was a memo that was produced by James Clapper, the head of the office. It wasn't, in fact, signed by James Clapper. It was his spokesman. A lot of thought goes into whose name goes on these memos, goes on these documents. The fact that James Clapper didn't put his name on that tells me something.
Something's really not right. All right, stand by, panel. Coming up, the Vice President says he always says what he means. Sounds like a good thing for Democrats, right? Well, unfortunately, not so fast. That may have turned out to be a bad slip. And in 2 minutes in Florida, it just got really hot, steaming hot, the triple X kind.